Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Long shadows were thrown over the elegant design studio of Forrester Creations, where ideas were scattered on the tables and fabrics were draped over mannequins as the sun streamed through the tall windows. Electra Forrester was standing close to the window, her thoughts far from the newest collection as her fingers idly traced the edge of a drawing board. Her relationship with Will Spencer had abruptly and mysteriously ended, and the last few weeks had been a maelstrom of confusion and misery. Electra was left to doubt everything she believed they had created when Will abruptly ended their intense romance, which had included whispered promises of a future together and stolen kisses. The memory of that last exchange still hurt Electra's heart. With regretful eyes, Will had stared at her and muttered something about how things had changed and how he needed some space. She had pleaded for clarification, but she received none. She immersed herself into her work at Forrester in the days that followed, thinking that the chaos of creativity would overpower the suffering. However, something seemed strange deep down. Will wasn't the kind to abruptly stop talking to her. There had to be more to it. She had no idea that the truth would upend her world in ways she could never have predicted. Daphne Rose moved anxiously across the hall in a more sedate area of the building. She practiced the sentences she knew she had to say, her hands knotted together. For far too long, Daphne had been hiding a dark secret about Electra's aunt, Ivy Forrester, a friend and co-worker. Ivy has always been too protective of her niece. Ivy saw warning signs everywhere when Electra began dating Will, the son of the competing Spencer family. Like the previous Forrester-Spencer feuds, she thought Will would only cause Electra heartache. Ivy decided to take matters into her own hands. She read a passionate love letter that Electra had written to Will, in which she expressed all of her innermost thoughts and aspirations for their future. Ivy allowed uncertainty to brew between the young couple by concealing it in her pocketbook rather than giving it. However, Ivy's plot didn't end there. She subtly sowed the seeds of suspicion by giving anonymous advice, altering pictures that were uploaded from Electra's phone to imply that she was seeing someone else, and even pushing Electra to look into a relationship with R.J. Forrester thought he was a better fit and safer member of the family. Daphne, divided between her growing unease with the deception and her allegiance to Ivy, had seen it all play out. Ivy was adamant that she was acting in Electra's best interests, despite her repeated attempts to get her to confess. Family protects family, Ivy had stated angrily during a heated argument. Daphne could no longer keep quiet. Will Spencer is trouble. Electra deserves better than a Spencer boy dragging her into endless drama. She had witnessed the toll it was having on Electra, the restless nights, the forced grins at work, the waning of her once bright vitality. It was the day. When Daphne saw Electra by herself in the studio, she cautiously walked up to her and spoke softly but urgently. Electra turned, her face furrowed in perplexity. "Electra, can we talk? It's important. About Will and your aunt." "Daphne? What do you mean? If this is about the breakup, I really don't want to rehash it right now. It hurts enough as it is." With remorse in her eyes, Daphne inhaled deeply. "I know it does. That's why I have to tell you this. Ivy, she wasn't just being protective. She orchestrated the whole thing. She stole the letter you wrote to Will, the one where you opened your heart completely. She kept it hidden so he never saw how much you cared. And those photos? The ones that made it look like you were interested in someone else? She posted them from your phone while you were distracted. She pushed you toward RJ because she thought he was better for you. It was all a setup to break you two up." Electra was hit hard. Her hand shot to her chest as though to calm her pounding heart as she stumbled back a step. Even as she expressed her denial, things began to make sense. "What? No, that can't be true. Aunt Ivy? She's family. She couldn't do that to me." The strange remarks regarding Will's unreliability, the times Daphne had appeared uneasy with Ivy lately, and the way Ivy had suddenly become so supportive of her spending time with RJ, Electra's eyes filled with tears as a mixture of anger and betrayal grew within of her. Daphne nodded and took out her phone to display texts and information she had secretly collected. "Show me proof." Tell me everything. Electra's bewilderment grew to ferocious rage as the whole scope of the manipulation became apparent, including the intercepted letter, the fabricated evidence, and the ongoing intervention. Since moving to Los Angeles, she had looked up to and trusted her aunt, who had deceived her in the most intimate way imaginable. Under the pretense of familial loyalty, Ivy had manipulated her romantic life. Elektra walked out of the studio without saying anything more, her heels clicking forcefully against the pristine floorboards. She was certain that Ivy would be at the main office of Forrester, either reviewing designs or conversing with RJ regarding the most recent campaign. Elektra came through the door, her voice shaking with anger and her cheeks inflamed. Ivy noticed her niece's attitude and looked up from her desk, her grin waning. "Elektra? Darling, what's wrong? You look upset." "Upset?" Elektra's voice broke like a whip. "Upset doesn't even begin to cover it, Aunt Ivy. How could you? How could you sabotage my relationship with Will like that? Daphne told me everything. The letter, the photos, the lies you fed me about him. You stole my words, my feelings, and hid them away because you decided Will wasn't good enough for me. Who gave you the right?" Ivy froze for a moment, her poise barely cracking. Although she had anticipated this day, she had wanted to steer the story. She carefully got up from her chair, trying not to lose her composure. "Elektra, listen to me. I did it for you. Will Spencer comes from a family that's been at war with ours for years. His father, Bill, is ruthless. I saw the way he looked at you, like you were just another conquest. I couldn't stand by and watch you get your heart broken. The letter, it was too emotional, too vulnerable. I thought if he didn't respond right away, you'd see his true colors. And RJ, he's family. He cares about you genuinely." Elektra grumbled, echoing in the office. Her eyes blazed as she took a step closer. "Genuinely? Like you? You manipulated me, Aunt Ivy. You made me doubt the man I love. I poured my soul into that letter, telling Will how much he meant to me, how I saw a future with him despite all the family drama. And you? You tucked it away like it was nothing. You posted those pictures to make it look like I was moving on. You even threatened Daphne to keep her quiet. Do you have any idea what that's done to me? The sleepless nights, the arguments, the way I pushed Will away thinking he didn't care? All because you thought you knew better than me about my own heart." The argument drew attention. RJ, with a worried expression on his face, Forrester emerged in the doorway as a few employees stood close by, feigning not to listen, yet listening intently to every word. Ivy looked around, embarrassment causing her cheeks to flush. "Lower your voice, Elektra. This is a family matter. I admit I went too far, but my intentions were pure. I love you like a daughter. I couldn't let a Spencer ruin your life the way they've tried to ruin this company." "Pure intentions?" Elektra replied, raising her voice. "This wasn't love, it was control. You treated me like a child who couldn't make her own decisions. I trusted you. When I first came here, you made me feel welcome, part of something bigger. But this is betrayal. You didn't just hurt me, you hurt Will too. He thinks I abandoned him, that I chose someone else. And for what? So you could push me toward RJ? Newsflash, Aunt Ivy. My love life isn't a Forrester Creations project you can redesign." Elektra cried, but they were tears of rage, not weakness. She held out her hand and demanded the return of the letter. Ivy hesitated before saying, "Give it to me. Right now. The letter I wrote to Will, it's mine, not yours to play with." Her hand went to her handbag, where the folded paper was still there, a physical reminder of her interference. She reluctantly took it out and gave it to him, her fingers shaking a little. Elektra grabbed it and held it to her chest, as if it were a lifeline. Will Spencer was pulled to Forrester Creations by an urgent text from Daphne as the confrontation intensified. He had been struggling with his own suffering, repeatedly reliving the divorce. His eyes were wide upon witnessing Elektra confronting Ivy. His voice was tight with emotion as he asked, "What's going on here?" Elektra's face softened for the first time as she turned to face him. Will's expression hardened as he took in the information, looking at Ivy with barely controlled rage. "Will, it's all been a lie. Aunt Ivy, she stole my letter to you. She made it look like I didn't care, like I was interested in someone else. I never stopped loving you. She manipulated everything to break us up. He went forward with his hands clenched at his sides and said, "You did what?" All this time, I thought Electra had moved on. I was ready to fight for us, but the signals were all wrong. Because of you. Ivy attempted to justify herself once more, her voice taking on a defensive tone. You had no right, Ivy. No right to interfere in our lives like some puppet master. Will, you're Spencer. Your family has caused nothing but pain for the Forresters. I was protecting my niece from repeating history. Electra deserves stability, not the chaos your father brings wherever he goes. But she did not respond. Though his partnership with Ivy earlier in the week suddenly felt confusing, RJ, who had been silently watching, eventually spoke up. As long-standing family disputes surfaced, tensions simmered in the air. Ivy, this has gone too far. Even I didn't know the full extent. Will and RJ exchanged intense looks, their long-standing animosity threatening to erupt into physical contact, but for the time being, Ivy's deteriorating facade was the major focus. Electra went on with her tirade, speaking as if a dam had burst. She described every instance of uncertainty Ivy had planted, every nuanced remark that had eroded her trust in the partnership. You made me question my own feelings, Aunt Ivy. You made me think I was naive for trusting Will. But the truth is, you're the one who was naive, thinking you could control love like one of your jewelry designs. Love isn't perfect and neither is Will, but he's real. He's honest. Unlike what you've been. As more people gathered in the office, designers, assistants, even Brooke Logan Forrester calling to ask about the disturbance, whispers began to circulate. Ivy's reputation, which was based on grace and astute business sense, was suddenly on the verge of scandal. This degree of dishonesty portrayed her as calculated and domineering, despite the fact that she had always taken pride in being the sophisticated aunt who filled in the gaps in the family. Electra experienced an odd sensation of empowerment in the middle of the mayhem. She had been lost for weeks, wondering what she had done wrong and blaming herself for the breakup. The blame now fell exactly where it should have. I don't know if I can forgive you for this, she said to Ivy in a more composed tone. Will nodded in agreement and gingerly reached out to grab Electra's hand. Family means trust, not manipulation. You've broken that. And if Will and I can find our way back to each other, it won't be because of you. It'll be despite you. Amidst the rubble of Ivy's scheme, a glimmer of hope rekindled as their fingers entwined. We need time to talk, just us, he whispered to Electra. But first, this ends here. Ivy sunk back into her chair as the consequences of her actions suddenly became apparent. Her face went white when she realized that if word got out, there may be repercussions not only with Electra, but also with the entire Forrester family. With a look of both relief and sorrow on her face, Daphne stood in the background. She had lost her friendship with Ivy, but she had done the right thing. The conflict spread to other areas of the Forrester empire as the afternoon went on. As the matriarchs who are always aware of family turmoil, Brooke and Katie Logan learned of the situation and came to mediate. Because of their own experiences with manipulation, they were stern but empathetic. Ivy, we've all made mistakes in the name of love, Brooke said softly, but this crosses a line. Electra has to live her own life. Katie added in a practical tone, and involving the Spencers like this only reignites old wars. Bill won't take kindly to hearing his son was played. Ivy tried to salvage what she could, apologizing in halting words, but the damage was already done. Clutching her found letter, Electra experienced a mixture of relief and residual suffering. After sneaking off to a peaceful balcony with a view of the Los Angeles skyline, she and Will were able to talk unhindered. I never stopped loving you, Electra said as she unfolded the letter and read passages out loud, including the vows of dedication and the hopes of creating something genuine together. Will listened, tears welling up in his eyes. I felt the same. Every day, without you was empty. Your aunt, she almost succeeded in tearing us apart, but she underestimated us. They spent much of the evening apologizing for their miscommunications, laughing at how ridiculous everything was and making tentative plans to rebuild. Back inside, though, Ivy had to deal with the fallout. RJ pushed her away, his previous encouragement fading. I thought you were helping, but this? It's too much, Ivy. Electra's hurting because of us. Ivy's carefully planned out plan to guide her niece toward a better match was in ruins. She had misjudged Electra's fortitude, Daphne's conscience, and the tenacity of adolescent love. Ivy sat by herself in the office, thinking about her decisions as the city's shadows became longer. Family loyalty had made her oblivious to the hurt she did, and protection had turned into possession. Electra's ripping into Ivy was a proclamation of independence more than merely This was a pivotal period in the glitzy, ruthless world of fashion and feuds, where allegiance changed like hemlines. Once a wide-eyed novice, Electra Forrester has discovered her voice. She would no longer allow other people to control her emotions. A few hours later, Electra and Will left Forrester Creations hand in hand as the sun began to set, casting orange and pink hues across the sky. Now securely in Will's hands, the letter represented their new beginning. No more secrets, Will swore. No more schemes, Electra said, turning to face the building where her aunt was still. Trust would need to be gained again, but forgiveness might eventually come. Inside, Ivy gazed at her image in a nearby mirror, the refined woman appearing unexpectedly exhausted. Her aunt's plan had fallen apart, revealing the weaknesses in her well-meaning meddling. Drama was the lifeblood of the bold and beautiful universe, but this chapter left lasting wounds. Electra's anger had been warranted. It was a daring protest against deceit that affected both the Spencer and Forrester families. The promise of more chaos rather than a conclusion marked the end of the day. Would Ivy's career at Forrester suffer as a result? Could Will and Electra really get beyond the betrayal? What part would RJ play in the aftermath, the truth now complicating his own affections for Electra? One encounter had altered everything in Los Angeles, a city known for its harsh edges. Even though she was emotionally spent, Electra felt lighter when she got home that evening. Grinning through new tears, she read her letter again. Love had weathered the storm, bruised but unharmed. Aunt Ivy's ambitious scheme had backfired catastrophically, demonstrating that the human heart was uncontrollable even in the realm of high fashion and big stakes. The protagonists in this complex tale readied themselves for whatever was ahead as darkness descended over the city. Confrontations, reconciliations, and possibly even new alliances forged in the flames of treachery. However, Electra saw her development as a result of her audacious stance. She would no longer be a pawn in someone else's scheme. With truthful threads holding the parts together, she was prepared to create her own future. Even into the evening, the ripple effects persisted. Family members called each other frequently, with Eric Forrester learning about the drama from Brooke and Bill Spencer receiving a passionate report from Will that hinted at future confrontations between Spencer and Forrester. Alone with her thoughts, Ivy considered what to do next. Whispers about maternity, leave aside, her job at Forrester felt unstable. This time had she gone too far? Reunited in spirit if not yet in rhythm, Electra and Will discuss limits, trust, and the value of honest communication well into the night. Will acknowledged, your aunt meant well in her twisted way, but Electra nodded. But love isn't something you force or block. After being put to the test by fire, their friendship grew stronger.
Exactly.
And from now on, no one gets between us. Not family, not schemes, not anything. The daring and the lovely kept dancing, but this Friday's moves were very different. Once a meticulously crafted tapestry of deceit, Ivy's plan was now tattered and visible to everyone. Electra thought on the strength of truth in the silent aftermath. The lies had been torn apart, revealing her aunt's true motivations. Hope persisted along with the anguish. One intense conflict at a time. Today had been about taking back her tale. Tomorrow would offer fresh designs and problems. Years of simmering tension finally spilled over when Electra rushed into the room with a wrath that instantly changed the atmosphere, her eyes fixed on Ivy. Without holding back, she unleashed an intense and passionate confrontation that surprised everyone. Ivy made an effort to remain calm, but Electra's charges were too personal for her. Ivy's carefully constructed persona started to crumble, revealing the reality of her recent behavior. It became evident as Electra explained everything that Ivy's most recent plan had been far more well thought out than anyone had thought. To avoid suspicion, she had twisted stories, manipulated circumstances, and relied on family devotion. However, Electra would not allow it to go on. As a niece and someone who had previously fully trusted Ivy, her words bore the weight of treachery. Ivy struggled to maintain control as each revelation undermined her defense. Ivy tried to defend herself by claiming that everything she did was in the best interests of society, but her claims were unpersuasive. Electra already had the upper hand in the room. Others started to see the contradictions, the ulterior intentions, and the repercussions of Ivy's behavior. As the truth spread, what Ivy believed to be an impenetrable plan swiftly fell apart, leaving her exposed and alone. In the meanwhile, the consequences went beyond their altercation. Trust was destroyed, friendships were called into doubt, and relationships were rocked. In addition to exposing Ivy, Electra's audacious approach made everyone reconsider their positions. Every aspect of their lives was affected emotionally, and lines were drawn. Now cornered, Ivy had to face a harsh truth. The same individuals she relied on were starting to turn away from her, and her influence was waning. When she realized there might not be a simple solution this time, the confidence she had previously held gave way to desperation. Once so meticulously planned, her plan had fallen apart beneath the weight of reality. One question persisted in the air as tensions remained high and emotions refused to subside. What will Ivy do now that everything has been revealed? Viewers are on the tip of their seats, eager to see what will happen next because there is so much at risk and nothing left to conceal.